Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this digital workshop on Haiti Reports from the Ground. My name is Joe Swimmer. I'm Executive Director of Episcopal Parish Network, and we are thrilled to have you with us for this important learning session, as well as our friends from locally Haiti. We learned about our friends at locally Haiti through our partners at Food for the Poor, who are doing amazing relief work in Haiti, along with this group that we've assembled here. And we're looking forward to hearing about the work that's ongoing and the challenges that the good people of Haiti face. So if you are not a member, if your parish is not a member of Episcopal Parish Network, we invite you to learn more about what we do, including hosting sessions like this one and our annual conference, which will be coming up next year in Houston, March 6th through 9th. Without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Alan Yarborough, who will be our moderator, and thank our friends from locally Haiti for joining us. And Alan, it's all yours.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you all for having me with you as your moderator today. I look forward to learning more about locally Haiti and how to be involved in the work that you're doing. I wanted to start today with a bit of context for folks tuning in, context that you all may be familiar with sort of the national level and international situation in Haiti. And that comes from, in part, my background in Haiti itself. I served in the Young Adult Service Corps for about 3 years, spending 2 years in the Central Plateau and a year in outside of Cap-Haïtien with the St. Barnabas Agriculture Center, and use that now in my role with the Office of Government Relations of the Episcopal Church and our advocacy on U.S. foreign policy to Haiti. So I chair something called the Haiti Advocacy Working Group. It's about 35 organizations that do advocacy to the U.S. government on matters pertaining to Haiti that also have a tie to Haiti itself. So I'm grateful to be here to share a bit of the perspective of that work and how it may illuminate this work that's happening on the ground with locally Haiti. I imagine many of you are quite familiar with what I sort of look at as a 3-part crisis in Haiti of security, economics, and governance. The economic situation, sort of all 3 of these really interplay, playing off of each other, but the economic situation at the moment really leading to some startling statistics on food access, water and sanitation, sort of overall well-being with the factors of inflation, access to goods, and services being critical concerns. Then, of course, you may have heard quite a bit about insecurity. There is a concentration of that in Port-au-Prince in terms of gang control and the violence that people are experiencing there, but there are examples of that in the countryside and elsewhere. But we hope I hope in this conversation we'll get to see a bit of distinction between or learn a bit more about what's happening outside of Port-au-Prince, at least in one case where locally Haiti is working. And then the governance situation, there are no elected officials in Haiti. As you all know, a couple of years ago, their president was unfortunately assassinated, and there have been no elections held in quite some time, such that all elected officials' terms have now expired, leaving, in a sense, a leadership vacuum. The current prime minister, the de facto prime minister, Ariel Henry, is the one that folks are looking at in the international community as the one who is stewarding the Haitian government. But there are a lot of efforts going on trying to encourage restarting the Haitian government in a sense, and looking toward how to hold free, fair, participatory elections in the country to help move the country forward at that top level. We're engaging in advocacy in a number of fronts, including on those conversations. But I think as I start to narrow down to locally Haiti here, there are also a lot of ongoing pieces that we're advocating on in the midst of that bigger picture of insecurity and governance. These are smaller issues, but not necessarily insignificant, things from trade and economic policy to the implementation of what's called the Global Fragility Act. Haiti was selected as a pilot country for the program that bill established. It's one of 4 countries and a region that the Biden administration selected to essentially undergo a 10-year development plan with an interagency process in the U.S. government that shifts the work and posture of the U.S. Into something that's a bit more long-term than it has been in the past. That combined with some localization efforts of U.S. aid and other agencies, but particularly U.S. aid, is starting to change the way the U.S. government, I think, is working with Haitians, both the government, but also directly to civil society and other organizations on the ground. So in the midst of this bigger context, I think it is people may be wondering, what can we be doing? And one of those things I consistently remind people of is to remember the relationships you already have with organizations like Locally Haiti. They are doing work on the ground. Haitians are doing work on the ground there. The supporters from the US, that is perhaps more important now than it ever has been. And the stability and positive impact that it provides really is needed. And is a great way to continue to make a positive impact. So I look forward again to learning more from Wen, Vanessa, and Martina today, and hope you do as well. So enough from me. Martina and Vanessa, why don't I turn it over to you just to briefly introduce yourselves. Martina, just looking at my screen, I see you first. So Martina and then Vanessa.
My name is Martina King. I have been volunteering with Locally Haiti since 2008, and I've been on the board since 2018. I'm an internal medicine physician. I work at Denver Health, which is the safety net hospital for the underserved populations of Denver, Colorado. And I have also worked twice for Doctors Without Borders, and have experience working in hospitals in Africa and Asia, in the developing world. And I've been to Haiti twice with Locally Haiti as well.
Thanks, Martina. Vanessa.
Hi, everyone. I'm Vanessa Sifre. I am a medical doctor with a lot of experiences in psychology. I officially joined the Locally Haiti's team as an officer in January 2022. Since then, I've been working with all partners, clinical staff, sample school, community health workers, to educate, reinforce, and face the challenges. I thank you all for being interested in Haiti and engaging with Haiti, and I'm glad to be here with you all today.
Great to have you here, Vanessa. And Wen, I'll turn it over to you, and know you'll have some slides for us as well to tell us a bit more about the work of Locally Haiti.
Thank you so much, Alan, and thank you, Joe, as well. Really appreciate the opportunity to spend time with you all today and to share a little bit about our work, the work that local leaders and local institutions in our partner community of Petit Trou de Nip are carrying out, despite conditions that are just difficult, beyond words, to be honest. As a very brief introduction to my own role and how I ended up with Locally Haiti, I lived in Haiti full-time for all of 2010, 11, and 12. At that time, that was with an organization called the St. Luc Foundation and Nos Petits Frères et Sœurs. I went with the intent of staying for 2 months, and I stayed for 2.5 years and left with 2 sons, and have been deeply engaged ever since then. I've been the director of Locally Haiti for the last 5 years. We have, as you'll learn in a moment, really deep roots in the Episcopal Church. And so grateful to spend time with you all here today, share a little bit more, and hopefully engage in a dialogue that we can learn some things about what you all are already up to as well. I think Alan is going to pull up a PowerPoint. And this is just, we're going to go through this pretty quickly, but it's just to share some context about our work and our partners and the leaders that we support, and then we can open it up into that broader conversation that I know Alan is going to facilitate and curate. So just a word about our history. Locally Haiti has been working in this rural community of Petit Trou de Nip for 34 years now. As I mentioned, deep roots in the Episcopal Church, founded by Haitian priest Father Octave Lafontaine, and then 2 priests from Colorado, Father Dale Casey and Father Ed Morgan. St. Paul's School, which is our main partner in education, functions through the Episcopal Church in Haiti, and we continue to count lots of US-based partners, Episcopal parishes, and the Diocese of Colorado as really foundational partners in our work. So mission statement, we advocate for and invest in locally led initiatives to support the vision of our partner communities in rural Haiti. We did a revision of this just a few years ago, and as you'll hear a lot throughout today, everything that we do is really about putting resources in the hands of local leaders and doing what we can to tenaciously but very humbly get resources in the hands of folks that can do the most with them. And then vision and values are there as well. A Haiti where rural communities have the opportunity to thrive. Humility, adaptability, integration, integrity, service, and gratitude. And then we just have a few shots here of some of the folks that motivate us and inspire us in Petit Trou. You can just scroll through these. We'll get to names and leaders in a moment, Alan. So local leaders, lasting impact. These are just a handful of the folks that are doing extraordinary work in Petit Trou. Overall, we support employment for about 200 people in Petit Trou, and that's through local institutions. Those individuals work for either the local health center or St. Paul's School and Parish or other community-based organizations, and we support the work that we support goes through those institutions. And then in addition to those 200 folks, Dr. Vanessa and then Johnny kind of make up our team, the locally Haiti team actually in Haiti that serves as coordinators and leaders there on behalf of locally Haiti. You can keep going. Thanks, Alan. So theory of change, and we sort of divided this up into two different spaces. One is one community at a time. We invest in local leaders in this one beautiful community with the idea that long-term relationships and deep commitment can support locally driven progress that will last. It's a community of about 40,000. It's a coastal town. It's due north of Lake Hai on the northern coast there on the southern peninsula. And the work that we support fits, broadly speaking, into these four categories of education, girls' empowerment, agriculture, and community health. Alan mentioned the difficult dynamics that everybody who is in Haiti are facing right now. We really do everything that we can to focus on the positive and the possible, but that's not to minimize the depth and severity of challenges that are in the country right now. To be honest, it's always a balance for us to try and where to land on that line between being honest about what's going on and also providing very real and also very important stories of progress and possibility in the country. And so when we think of one community at a time, we really think of what can we do to use our resources the most efficiently, to provide an example and to provide a way for these talented leaders and families to stay in the communities that they grew up in, if that's what they choose, if that's what they prefer, to not be forced to emigrate in dangerous ways, to not be forced into impossible choices that we would all want to avoid for our own families. And we do that through focusing on one community and investing in local institutions and leaders there. And then the other piece of it that relates is this focus on rural development. As I think Vanessa might speak to a little bit later, and as Alan spoke to as well, and as many of you are aware, the situation in Port-au-Prince is just honestly beyond words and beyond challenging. I mean, I have really close friends that are there that I speak to frequently. I lived there for 2.5 years. The idea is certainly not forget about Port-au-Prince. That's not what we're saying. But what we do believe is that with limited resources and long-term relationships, the best way to really funnel those at this point is to focus on what's possible in the rural part of the country. How can we help participate in the development of a multipolar economy where folks can stay and not only stay, but thrive in the rural parts of the country, where there can be local food systems that function, where there can be access and opportunity. And so those two things together, the one community at a time and the importance of rural development, really sort of guides our overarching approach. And then I'm going to kind of fly through these because I do want to leave time for the questions and the dialogue. But so education, St. Paul's School, founded in 1989. There's currently 527 students there. That goes from pre-kindergarten all the way up until the end of high school. We follow the state curriculum. I mean, it's a state accredited school, but we also have supplemental programs in girls empowerment, agricultural education, and entrepreneurship. And you can go ahead, Alan. And then there's also a scholarship program that we support scholarships in country. That happens with a number of partners, one of which is BTI, the Episcopal University in Lakai, which is a really valuable partner for us. And I think the only other thing that noted is that it's a solar powered campus, which we're also proud of. You can go ahead. Thanks, Alan. Girls Empowerment and Mentoring is a program that functions both at St. Paul's School and at other schools in the community. To be clear, this is not a program that we came up with here in Colorado and decided to bring to Haiti. What we've been able to do is basically financially support a partnership between local leaders and local institutions in Petit-Trou and an organization called Réponse et Pouvoir, which is an expert organization that works in this field. They're based in Jacmel. It's a great group. And also the Haiti Development Institute is a partner in that. So there's 8 Haitian organizations that work together on girls empowerment and mentoring generally. You can keep going, thank you. Agriculture and food security, as Alan mentioned, this is a huge challenge in the country right now. We, as I mentioned, have the program that functions through St. Paul's School. So there is a farm on campus, an agronomist who works full-time in the classroom and on the farm with students. His name is Raphael. He's an extraordinary leader and community organizer. And then in addition to the program at St. Paul's School, we also support other community-based organizations working in the same space. There's animal husbandry, seed saving and seed banking efforts in the past, beekeeping, and a really innovative program that was mostly designed by Raphael with help from Vanessa and others during COVID that really married the work of community health workers and agronomists. And I'll speak about that more in a moment. In community health, the majority of our support goes towards supporting a cadre of community health workers. They function in cooperation with the local health center, which we'll share more about in a moment. As you all know, there are really deep problems right now with the federal government in Haiti, to the extent that there is a federal government in Haiti. On the regional and local level, because of our long history in Petit-Trou, we find that folks are incredibly responsive and motivated and eager to see progress in the community. They are definitely under-resourced. There are definitely severe challenges when it comes to access, but we work really closely with the local health center and the region of NEEP. And these 40 community health workers function in cooperation with that system. You see a couple other things there. This is the program that I mentioned briefly during COVID. So the idea is basically that at the time it was 41 community health workers, worked with Raphael and a team of agronomists to basically marry the work that was happening in education and prevention and all of the important community health work that already happens, along with a food security program. So in all of these localities throughout Petit-Trou, as there was education and community meetings around COVID, there was also efforts to provide seed and tool banks and access to fruit tree starts and other things, depending on sort of which microclimate you were in. Coast becomes the hills very quickly there, so what is appropriate is not the same across the entire commune. But it was incredibly successful, and we really see it transitioning into what will be a long-term part of our approach in really focusing on where we can identify synergies between health and agriculture and food security. And then just wanted to note this before we turn it over to Alan for questions and dialogue with you all. Staying in the health space, the biggest challenge in the community of Petit-Trou right now, and a place that we're spending a lot of time and a lot of resources, is a redesign and a rebuild of a community hospital and health center in Petit-Trou. You can go to the next slide, Ellen. As you all know, August of 2021, there was a devastating earthquake that struck the south about 5 miles from Petit-Trou. Lives were lost, buildings across Petit-Trou were damaged or destroyed. The only functioning health center for the commune was irreparably damaged. There were already some concerns about the structure even prior to the earthquake, and it was very clear to several independent engineers after the earthquake that that building should no longer be used. That's not the building, by the way, but that's a block away from it, and the column that is shown there is from inside the building. And so we were asked, you can go to the next slide, thank you. We were asked by the Ministry of Health and NEEP to basically lead the effort to design, fund, and supervise building of a new community hospital and health center in Petit-Trou. You can go ahead, thank you. And so we have done that. You can continue. We have done that. We've engaged Masada, which is an architecture firm with a ton of experience both in Haiti and throughout the world. We are in the final phase of basically the drawings are finished. There's one last decision to be made about what the appropriate site for the hospital is. You can go ahead, Alan, thank you. The appropriate site for the hospital, but it's a 1,200 square meter facility. It will be, the nicest building in the area. It will be built. We have a set of roughly 5 firms that will receive an invitation and a call for proposals. A lot of structures in place around supervision. I'm sure there will be questions around that, and happy to get to that later as well. But we're really thrilled for this next step. Next slide, please, Alan. So there's the reference to Masada and just another rendering there. And then I think the last slide is next. And so the current situation with that hospital project is we've raised $825,000 in hand and have some other irons and promising fires about meeting the rest of that gap. Direct Relief and Episcopal Relief and Development have committed to partnering on the hospital project. The complete set of drawings, like I said, is basically done. It'll just depend again on this final piece when it comes to site selection. Then we hope at the latest to release a call for proposals in August. And the key thing to note about that hospital project, and it's in line with what I described earlier, is it's really all about this sort of overlapping approach. It's not just about clinical care, although that's a part of it. To have all of this time later, clinical care still being provided in tents, is disturbing, is embarrassing, and we can do better as a world, as a society. But it's not just about clinical care. It's also about the important community health work. It's about the prevention that is going on. It's about having a base of support for that community health and food security work. There'll also be a full-time residence for full-time staff on site, and a center for agriculture, food security trainings around nutrition on campus. So we're thrilled. It's going to be a huge step forward for the community, and it really fits in line with how we see most of our work, which is, as I said earlier, just trying to provide resources and long-term commitment and support to local institutions to try and continue to help this community be an example and be a place where folks can thrive and use their talents, creativity to support their own communities rather than being forced into those impossible decisions. So I'll stop there. And Alan, turn it over to you. And again, I just want to thank you all. I know that many of you are already deeply involved in Haiti. As Alan said, encourage you all to double down and keep those commitments and stay connected. It's more important than ever, and would love to hear from many of you, not only now, but by email or otherwise. Thanks so much for listening.
Yeah, thanks, Wen. It's really helpful and encouraging. I think just among many things, what stands out is this the holistic approach in a sense. at least recognizing the ties between different components of community building and life that can be addressed concurrently or invited in concurrently to be successful. And I also, as much as folks have heard about the government of Haiti struggling or failures in governance, there are also still people there who are, civic servants, civil servants who want to see things move forward. And so even if it's not, the perfect set of resources, I'm encouraged to hear, you're connected with the Ministry of Health and connecting with, the local structures that can really help move this forward. So we have Vanessa and Martina with us as well. As folks post questions in the chat, I figured I'd start with just a couple that we have queued up. Vanessa, you, as I understand it, are based in Port-au-Prince and travel to Petit-Trou. So you sort of see the urban, context in the capital, but then also the rural context around Petit-Trou and the sort of smaller urban context there. I wonder if you could share with us how you see the importance of rural development that Wen was talking about.
Thank you for the question. I think rural areas are left to themselves with limited access to basic services. Rural development will integrate everyone, giving access to health, quality education, allowing each citizen, regardless of where he comes from, to participate in exchanges for the well-being of the country. I believe that we need everyone to build a nation, a country, and that everyone has something to say. No one should be sidelined. This is especially with all the challenges in Port-au-Prince. The rural parts of the country can show a different way forward. Only in this way, we can have model citizens giving birth to the society we want.
Thank you for that. And when you had, you mentioned you've lived in Haiti before, in Port-au-Prince, and I think that was after the 2010 earthquake, working in sort of a medical setting. How did that inform your view? How does that inform your view now with the work with Locally Haiti?
Yeah, I mean, it was formative in every way, sort of a huge fork in the road for me, professionally, but really personally. I was sort of put into this very unique situation at that moment, that I was with an organization, which, as I mentioned, is the St. Luke Foundation and No Petit Frères et Sœurs, St. Damien's Hospital, where there was an enormous amount of resources at the disposal of those organizations in that moment. And it was the rare moment where you actually saw local people with access to those resources doing incredible, transformative, heroic work because of the way those organizations are structured. And there's a lot of reasons that those organizations, I think, are very special. But I mean, the lessons that I learned during that time, both in the sense of what's possible, when that work is done correctly, even in the most challenging of a situation, what the Haitian people are capable of when they have access to resources. And then also just in the health space period, to be put in that situation where so many people were in the most vulnerable situations you can imagine. And then with the earthquake response transitioning into the cholera response, just to see and experience the total sort of dearth of access that existed at that time, and to see Haitian nurses, Haitian doctors, Haitian professionals just absolutely ready to meet the call under these impossible circumstances. Many of them had just lost their own homes, members of their own families, working 18 hours a day, helping others, going back to a tent next to the rubble of their previous home, taking in essence a long nap and going back to work and doing it over and over and over. It was just an incredibly powerful education on, the best of what the human spirit is capable of, and in certain ways, just sort of the worst of how we have organized ourselves, and the ways that that as an international community we failed to create the kind of structures that we need to.
Yeah, that sounds quite informative for the ongoing situation and then exposure to natural disasters, exposure to difficulties that come up that are unexpected. As well. So Martina, turning over to you, you've worked with I'm blanking on the English name, goodness, of MSF, Doctors Without Borders, and are also on Locally Haiti's board, as you mentioned, and you've traveled to PT True, I believe. Yeah, so how tell us more how you see sort of this complicated work. What has this looked like from your vantage point?
Thanks for asking. When I first became involved with Locally Haiti was before I went to medical school or had any work experience, obviously. And since then, I've been there twice, gained work experience here, and worked for Doctors Without Borders in two distinctly different settings. One was in a facility run totally by Doctors Without Borders in a refugee camp, and another in a facility run by a local Ministry of Health in collaboration with Doctors Without Borders. And each of those settings is appropriate in its context for many reasons. But like I had the opportunity to experience different ways that these collaborations can happen. And the more I've learned, the more enthusiastic I am about Locally Haiti and about the work that's upcoming here. I think we're in a very unique position since we have had such a long relationship in this community with institutions and with individuals, and with the healthcare infrastructure there. We're in this really unique position to help in a way that I think really enforces the importance of local leadership and can put resources in the hands of people who know what they're doing, like Wynn was alluding to. I've worked in tents, it's very uncomfortable, and I'm dedicated to this project for a lot of reasons that like draw on my experiences, not just because of tents.
Yeah, so thinking of this the opportunity and looking forward with this work, when you talked about the hospital build and the importance of that. So I want to visit that, hear from you and then Vanessa on it. What are the complications in Haiti sort of right now? What are you worried about in terms of the ability to build the hospital at this moment?
Yeah, thank you. If I went into all the complications, we would be here for an hour and a half. I don't want to minimize or come off as naive about the challenges and the complications and the potential roadblocks that relate to a project like this. There are all kinds of issues related to transportation and the cost of goods and supplies and importing of materials that have to be imported. But we have really strong relationships on a couple levels that I think help us to mitigate those challenges. And so there's a few. I mean, so Masada, again, the architecture firm that I referenced, there is a fantastic Haitian architect on staff that's there full time that has a ton of relationships in the country. And we've already identified a list of firms that have this type of experience and have the ability to build a health center of this quality that exists in the country and are still working in the country despite all of these challenges. I think each one has their own systems in place to allow for basically meeting the logistical challenges. You know, there are folks that are shipping things with barges. There are other creative approaches. There are some markets that have basically sprung up in order to meet the need that's been imposed by the transportation challenges. So there are some creative solutions, and there are folks working really hard to continue progress in the country despite everything that's happening. So to be honest, I do feel confident about our ability to make this happen. But I don't want to minimize the depth of the challenges that are there because they are real. On the funding side, we've made a ton of progress, and I'm really hopeful that we're going to get over that finish line soon. There's a couple partners that have committed to participate. Recently, I mentioned Direct Relief and Episcopal Relief and Development are already committed to play a part in this project. There are several others that we're in contact with. And again, I'm hopeful about that. And then we also just have generous supporters and parishes here in Colorado that have stepped up and hopefully will continue to step up. So on the funding piece, I think we'll get there. And yeah, like I said, that last step about just choosing the site should hopefully be wrapped up in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And then we'll release that call for proposals, and we look forward to having a really sort of open and transparent process as we start building and as we ground break and as we sort of report on progress. But yeah, again, I've said it a few times, and it relates to everything we do, but particularly with the hospital. Don't want to minimize the complexity, but also it's the long-term relationships, and it's the in-country leaders and the in-country professionals that will basically allow us to make it happen. And I feel confident.
Yeah, sticking with the hospital build, Vanessa, what sort of both from a broader sense in the community, but maybe also from your particular role and profession, what would this hospital mean to PT True, to the community there?
Access to health care is one of the biggest challenges in Petit True. Currently, there is no clinic right now for a population of over 40,000. I think this hospital, in addition to providing quality services, will give hope for an apparent and sustainable rural development.
Great. And Martina, and then I'll turn to some questions I'm seeing coming in the chat. A couple you've touched on already, you all have touched on already, but from a US-based perspective, how has the sort of overall instability affected locally Haiti's ability to work with clinic staff with the hospital? Are you still traveling there? What does that relationship look like at the moment?
So we're not sending large groups, unfortunately, right now. WIN has been recently, and I am hoping to go sometime in the near future. The way things stand at this very moment, though, a large group is probably not workable. But again, we have a strong team who are there, who have been leading this community for a long time, and that's what helps us to continue, even though we are not all visiting all the time.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's an unfortunate sort of side effect of the current situation. Just looking at questions going down, picking a couple out here. Has there been an impact, or how have you been impacted by the recent flooding and the earthquake on Monday? I know Monday's earthquake was fortunately a bit smaller and was west of you all, but and then I think the flooding, if I'm not mistaken, was concentrated just to the east. But someone was asking about those two recent events.
Your impression is right, Alan, as far as relates specifically to Petit True. Obviously, we follow the news closely in both instances. The images and the news from the flooding in Leogane and the earthquake, further west, certainly is heartbreaking, and we follow it, and we've been thinking of those communities for sure. But in Petit True, there were not serious effects or impacts from those two events.
Okay. And in terms of, perhaps can be a good concluding question, but I'll go ahead and ask it now. In addition to funding, how can people be of help? How can people be useful?
There's a lot of ways. I mean, I would say first and foremost, please, if you are interested, reach out with questions, with ways to connect, and we'd be glad to chat kind of one-on-one or one on parish or community or whatever is possible. But really, there are lots of ways. We have a very small team here in Colorado, and rely on volunteers and rely on outreach committees and grassroots events and small events and people, bringing their neighbors and friends together. And we try to create as many opportunities as possible in that space to do, the fundraiser type model, and to just have raise awareness about what's going on. We certainly see, as I mentioned, that balance again between the positive and the possible, and also a realistic view of what the challenges are, is something that we always are keeping in mind. But I'll say that, from my own perspective, being able to talk about our work and in particular being able to talk about the leaders in Petit Trou and putting those leaders at the center of their own stories is an end in and of itself. So it's a chance for people just to slightly shift their view on what's going on in Haiti. The headlines are, it's very much a single story. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the TED Talk from Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. It's probably 10 years old now, but she's a Nigerian writer, and there's a TED Talk that got a lot of attention called The Danger of the Single Story. And the single story of Haiti is just, it's just so consistent. And it's not that there is not need, and it's not that there's not some truth in that single story, but the reality is so much more nuanced and so much more interesting, and there's so much positivity to grab onto, and there's so many leaders that are inspiring and can make an impact. And so when I mentioned those kind of fundraiser, grassroots type activities that we're always here to help folks organize, yes, they're about raising funds, and yes, we need to raise funds, and yes, for most folks in the US, the way you can help is to fund work of Haitian leaders. But that being said, just exposing people to the country in a different way is meaningful and important. And so anyone that's interested in trying to do that, we're here to help.
And Vanessa, I'm going to add my own spin to this question. I know there are some folks I'm seeing already who on this call who are Haitian and live in Haiti or are from Haiti. How can folks within Haiti also lend support? I'm seeing folks who are in healthcare, who are in agriculture, that may live in different places, but are there ways you see networking could be of benefit or other uses there?
Can you repeat, Alan, please?
Yeah, how folks from within Haiti can help support locally Haiti's work.
I think we can connect and participate with the staff and look forward how we can make the job together.
Right. Yeah, and I think there's another question here. Not sure who asked it, but wondering if any of you all will be willing to consult with leaders in other regions of Haiti to help replicate this model.
I can answer that. Absolutely. We're really also serious about, not working in silos and not, we've learned a ton from organizations in Haiti. I'm sure whichever organization or other, parish group in Haiti is reaching out would have a lot to teach us as well. So, looking for synergies and partnerships and integrating the work and not working in silos is something that we take really seriously. And it's part of our values now. And we would love to hear from anybody and brainstorm on how we could reinforce each other.
Great. And it looks like there's several folks asking questions. You mentioned the difficulties of logistics and getting materials and shipments. And I wonder if you have anything further to share with that. Folks are sort of wondering how they may learn from you, even if they're in physically different parts of the country, whether that's how to get to Port-au-Prince and back safely, or other means of access to materials.
Yeah, I would say no magic solution, but certainly depending on, as you noted, where you are in the country, we'd be more than happy to share what we know. I mean, when I travel to Haiti now, I fly from Port-au-Prince to Lake Hai and then drive from Lake Hai to Petit Trou. And that's what Vanessa and Johnny do as well. I mean, that's just like a simple example. But when it comes to shipping, large quantities of things, we've been able to do some of it from within the country. After the period of the earthquake, we were able to facilitate a lot of that. But generally, we're not importing a ton, to be honest. It's not a huge part of what we do. But we have had in-depth conversations with some contractors and firms specific to the hospital project. And we do think that, as I said earlier, that there's a way to do that. So no magic answer, but happy to chat with anybody.
Sounds good. So you've mentioned a couple of partnerships. I'm getting questions in a couple of places. You mentioned partnerships with the Ministry of Health and a couple of other organizations. I'm wondering if there are any other partnerships to note, others in the healthcare space, others in the agriculture space. You mentioned BPI from that education perspective. Are there other partners you're working with on the ground in Haiti?
Yeah, there's a good number. Let's see, you mentioned BTI. There have been a couple other higher education institutes that we funded scholarships through. I think I saw Zami Agricole referenced in one of the comments. We sent several scholarship students there, and they had a great experience and are now back and working in their communities. Several other groups working in agriculture we have shared ideas with and sort of shared information with and visits back and forth. As you noted, we've also been in touch with Food for the Poor, or Joe did, sorry, and are hopeful about finding ways to partner with Food for the Poor in a few places. Through my previous work, as I mentioned, the St. Luke Foundation and St. Damian's Hospital, we've also had interactions and conversations over the years with Partners in Health. We've had some advice and really helpful brainstorms with Build Health International around the hospital project. I mean, there's many that I'm forgetting, but we really do try to connect as much as possible. As most of y'all out there probably know, partnership just for the sake of partnership is not always the greatest thing. But anytime we can find a practical conversation to have, anytime we can learn from each other, everybody's stronger for it, and we do take it really seriously.
And it sounds like there's a comment here about from someone with Forging Futures in Haiti, looking at sort of merging or partnering. So that is the easiest way to enter into those conversations, just to reach out to you directly when?
Sure.
Okay. There are also a couple of folks asking about the relationship with the Episcopal Church in Haiti, the Diocese of Haiti. So I don't want to take a particular frame with that, but wonder if you could comment on what that relationship's like, what that's sort of been for you.
Yeah. So, at the parish level, Father Daniel is the current priest in charge at St. Paul's in Petit-Trou, and I speak to him frequently, and Vanessa is in Petit-Trou right now, and as is Johnny, and a big part of those visits deal with St. Paul's Parish and our partners there. On the broader level, when it comes to the Diocese of Haiti, as most folks on here are probably aware, it's been a challenging, tumultuous time in the diocese, to say the least. We do, again, because of this long relationship, engage in direct conversations with members of the standing committee, with Father Abiad, who is the Archdeacon. He's in Lake High now and used to be in Petit-Trou. Without going too into the weeds or speaking sort of above my pay grade when it comes to what's going on in the diocese right now, we stay very aware and we are following all the news that comes out officially. And then in addition to that, we have lots of personal conversations, checking in with people and just seeing how they're doing, and hoping that things can move in a positive direction soon.
Yeah, and I'm seeing grateful for folks responding to each other in the chat here, answering each other's questions with tips on communications, on goods management through the DR border, through Cap Haitian. And there was also a question around any attempts to sort of organize people in the U.S. I think is the intent in the U.S. with that have connections with Haiti to sort of streamline them or help them work together. I'm not aware of anything like that, but wanted to raise that one in case you know of something that I do not.
I guess it depends a little bit. I don't see the question on how you mean, but again, I mean, I'm part of lots of like listservs and sort of like Haiti think tank type things where folks are sharing ideas, whether that's around advocacy, which is not something that we do sort of by our mission, but I certainly follow all of that just as a person who is interested. But if anyone is interested in reaching out, I can certainly share whatever listservs and groups that I am. When I say a part of, I'm not necessarily like deeply involved with all of them, but I follow them and I stay connected, and it's a way to see who's doing what. And so that's something that there are resources out there that I'd be happy to share, if that's what you mean, Alan, but I might have misunderstood the question.
Yeah, I mean, I think assuming it's to streamline or help collaborate in terms of these types of ministries and relationships. Really, I mean, I think probably to address some of the questions that have been raised here that are sort of trying to glean information from how locally Haiti is operating and from others who are engaged. There's also a question here from Partners in Literacy Haiti. Hey, Sarah. Do you have a children's library or library corner, something for really children ages 0 to 8? Partners in Literacy Haiti has worked with the Episcopal and other denominations to build those services elsewhere in Haiti.
It exists on a very basic level, and would certainly love to hear more about it and see if we could work together.
And I am still working on scrolling through a couple of the messages here. So excuse me, please. Thank you for your patience as I read here. So there have been a couple of questions around sort of ensuring that what's sort of being discussed is actually happening, and ensuring that there's sort of accountability and quality control in the project development and project maintenance there with locally Haiti. How in looking at this new project and the new hospital and recognizing the limitations of both locals having difficulty and added danger in moving around, but you all not being able to go down there. What are some ways that you're assuring sort of the viability of the new clinic, the viability of the hospital build, and other operations of locally Haiti?
I would love it if, I don't want to put Vanessa on the spot. Vanessa is, English is her third language, and she has made a ton of progress. But I know that sometimes on Zoom, it can be hard in particular. So I don't want to put Vanessa on the spot for this question. But I will talk about Vanessa and then maybe see if Vanessa wants to chime in and add some more detail to the answer. But so Vanessa and Johnny, so Vanessa is an extraordinary leader, trained as a doctor, but also has all kinds of experience in community development, participatory methods, engaging with groups. And then Johnny has worked in international development in Haiti for about 12 years now, has worked on USAID projects and other projects that, involve a lot of important sort of M&E communications hard skills. And so the three of us really work together very closely as a team, doing the type of work that you were just referencing, Alan, and taking very seriously the idea that when it comes to reporting, we don't want to be giving a series of reports saying, fill this in, please, and then when they hand it back, we say thanks, and that's the end of the conversation. We take really seriously the idea that reporting should be useful to the local partners. It should be understood by the local partners. It should be a collaborative effort to come up with things that are practical and make sense from both sides. Certainly when it comes to grants and reporting and audits and all of that, we take it really seriously. But basically the team of Johnny and Vanessa with myself, we work together to sort of build a bridge between the two sides that really feels a little bit more like a true relationship, as opposed to the funder asking for information from the funded. There is an inescapable element of those money dynamics, no matter how hard you work at it, and no matter how seriously you take the relationship and the humility. It's impossible to get away from 100%. But we take it seriously and we work really hard in that space, and Vanessa and Johnny do an extraordinary job. So me, Vanessa, and Johnny are sort of the locally Haiti team when it comes to that. And then we're liaising with all of these local institutions, and each has their own, strengths, challenges, they're at their own place on that sort of spectrum, if that makes sense. Vanessa, do you want to add anything?
Yes, no, that makes sense. And, in my experience working in a couple of places, I think it's helpful to remind folks that we're each other's partners in this. And, there are different resources. And as you said, there is, to an extent, an inescapable, need and dynamic with the financial piece and sort of legal requirements and fiduciary requirements on the US side. And the need and pressure to hopefully make sure that fundraising still happens and people are still willing to give. And so to me, I have found it useful to be open and transparent about what those needs are and inviting everyone involved to be a part of that problem solving, because it takes all of us to do that, whether we're in Haiti or the US, and can each, I think, provide really valuable insight and learn from each other and how to effectively manage an international relationship, an international project that, despite the broader, contextual difficulties, is just hard. Human relations are difficult, but I've appreciated so much the optimism and the forward-looking nature of this program today, and looking at what Locally Haiti is doing in the Southern Peninsula of Haiti. So as we wrap up in the last couple of minutes here, I'd love if you all, when Martina and Vanessa, have anything sort of concluding remark you would like to say, request and words of encouragement. I'd love to give you the last couple of minutes here to do that.
I've talked way too much, so I'm going to give just a few words, which is thank you all so much for being here and showing that you care about this place. I know you're all deeply involved in your own ways. Would love to hear from you and look for ways to work together. Thanks for putting this on and for inviting us.
Vanessa, is there any concluding remarks or messages you'd like folks to hear?
Just saying thank you for being there. Thank you for being interested in Haiti. Thank you so much.
And Martina?
The same for me. Thanks for having us. Thanks everyone for listening. I'm excited about this, and it's fun to have other people who want to hear about it too.
Great. That sounds good. Well, thank you to the three of you for being here, sharing the stories of your ministry and the exciting ways to be involved. And thanks to Joe and the Episcopal Parish Network for hosting this conversation today to continue to raise the profile of these types of ministries in Haiti. So with that, we'll wrap up for today and look forward to the next program.